Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for our next talk. So we all know about the power of crowdsourced financing. What about the power of crowdsourced engineering? So this gentleman from RLoop is going to talk to us about the power of crowdsourced engineering. So round of applause, please.
Hi guys, my name is Ilyas Fali, co-founder of RLoop. I'm going to talk to you about power of crowdsourced engineering and our journey so far. What is it that ultimately we're doing? We're decentralizing high technology. How we're doing that, I'll take you through our journey, but we're starting with the Hyperloop, and we started this journey, what's coming up to almost 3 years now. So who's young enough or old enough to remember 1985? Remember Back to the Future? Well, I personally thought 2015 would look like this. I thought it would be flying cars, or there must be flying suits, or at least get an easier way to get on the moon, but none of that's happened. Best way to describe 2015, Peter Thiel's, what did Peter Thiel say? Because we wanted flying cars, but instead we got 140 characters. I think that's changed down to 260 recently. So the question is, why aren't we flying around? What's the problem? We call it the innovation bottleneck. What is the innovation bottleneck? So over the last couple of decades, over the last 5 decades, there's been a slowdown in investment in R&D. Historically, 2 to 3% of the national GDP would get invested into innovation or R&D projects. That is now less than 1%. And we feel the effects of it every day. Lack of jobs, lack of high-end engineering jobs, and so forth. So what's the solution? What's the solution to 5 decades of decline in innovation? We call it RLoop, we call it moonshot projects, and how is it that we're gonna break this innovation bottleneck? Well, firstly, our mission is to develop and launch innovative technology fueled by a genuine desire to improve lives and work for better for humanity. How are we going to do it? Well, firstly, let's find the innovators. Who are the innovators? It's each and every one of you that's here, right? You're here to find either show something new, teach something new, or learn something new. So let's find the innovators, which we have, and let's connect with yourselves. Well, how are we going to connect? We want to try and work in a new decentralized way. So is that even possible? So first, let's try and find a project. Something that's never been developed before, something that's not available and not in the market. We call it Hyperloop. Everyone heard of the Hyperloop? Yeah? No? Get Manchester to London 15 minutes? Where did it all begin? So where did we begin? So 2013, Elon Musk released the Hyperloop white paper and asked engineers and companies around the world to come up with a new mode of transportation. The story goes that in 2015, June 2015, he wasn't happy with the progress of the development of this new mode of transport. So he announced it as a global competition. And 2,000 engineering companies and tier 1 universities answered the call to come and develop the Hyperloop. I was in the UK in a small town called Blackburn, just outside of Manchester. And I wanted to enter the competition also. So for SpaceX subreddit, made an announcement that let's see if we can try and form a competition team online. Now the SpaceX subreddit's about 60, 70,000 people. Most of the people who are quite passionate in engineering or rocket engineering in one way or another, or work directly in the field. So somebody made an announcement, let's form a team online. Somebody said, yeah, I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. And that's how we started. People started to join. We literally started on the back of an Excel spreadsheet, taking all the names down based on experience and how much spare time they'd be able to commit on a weekly basis. I mean, I'm in a full-time job. I'm still in a full-time job 3 years later. So it's everything that we were able to do, we would have had to have done it in our spare time, and completely virtually. So no office, no engineers in a physical place. Our team of experts are from all around the world, and people that were generally on the SpaceX subreddit were scattered all over the place. the time frame from Elon Musk and SpaceX was extremely difficult. The milestones that was set for the various design stages were quite tough, and we had to present our engineering design to SpaceX, which is one of the best engineering companies in the world. With 2,000 initial entries, there were various stages of submission, and only 12 teams were supposed to be selected from the initial 2,000 entries, which was quite tough. In January 2016, a few of us turned up, and it was literally just a handful of us then, turned up to Houston. We presented our designs to NASA and SpaceX engineers. And there were two categories. There was a student category and a non-student category. We won the non-student category. We were up against some great engineering organizations like AECOM, I'm sure IBM entered as well, and a few others. We got shortlisted, and we got through down to the last 12. Elon Musk on the day presented us with a trophy, and this was the first award that we received, and this was January 2016. So engineering design for us virtually was a challenge, but having no physical place to build this presented a bigger challenge for us. Like I said, I was in a full-time employment. All our engineers were in full-time employment. So how is it that we were going to go about something that we've designed virtually and to make physically? And this wasn't just anything. This was a scale-level prototype for the future of transport. We very quickly self-organized. We got some senior sponsors in Silicon Valley who gave us an R&D center opposite Facebook, and that's where a lot of our work commenced. We targeted students, non-skilled engineers who were based around Silicon Valley, who could physically present themselves at our R&D center, where our virtual team, including myself, could assist virtually with instructions on how we can go about designing and building this. Now, if we were to think a future of transport and we were to pixelate it and pick up any pixel, then what we've done is broken down any complex problem into a component level. And it was at that component level that we would give out the instructions to the physical team locally. With that in mind, we progressed and we built a prototype, and in January 2017, the world's first Hyperloop competition, we were there presenting our designs and going through a very difficult week of testing. This is a great picture. This is 60 RLoopers from 21 countries arriving for the first time in Hawthorne at SpaceX. Most of the people here worked on the technology for more than 2 years and never touched it. Most of the people here worked with each other for more than 2 years and never met in person. So this was our first meetup at SpaceX. And lo and behold, we won. We won the Innovation Award at SpaceX. And it hadn't just finished there. Elon Musk was quite impressed. This is the second award that we received from Elon Musk and SpaceX. And he was hugely impressed with our designs. He was hugely even more impressed with how we came about to build it. So he asked us to come to the second competition, not as a competing team this time, but just to test our Hyperloop pod further, which we did. In October 2017, we presented ourselves at SpaceX again. And in November 2017, we were at Autodesk in Vegas demonstrating what we've done. As it stands today, 3 years in, we're a globally crowdsourced engineering organization. We're over 1,300 engineers from 59 countries. We've won various awards, not just the 2 innovation awards for SpaceX Hyperloop, but also picked up other awards as well. Where do we stand today? A year and a half later, we still hold the most advanced Hyperloop prototype in the world that we've not only designed, built, but also demonstrated in the public space. But more importantly, it's built entirely by the crowd, entirely by people like yourselves. This is the coverage that we received, significantly more. There's some great articles and some documentaries that that have been done on us. Wired Magazine did a 5-part documentary. History Channel have just finished recording us, and they're featuring us also in the fall of 2018. RLoop on the blockchain, what is it that we want to do with decentralized technologies? Well, we've already demonstrated that we can work in a decentralized way. We've demonstrated that we can work and design and engineer anything. The processes that we've created today are the foundations that we believe for the future of work, where now anyone, anywhere can come collaborate on projects that they're passionate about, but also projects that they themselves want to work on. Currently, there's 1 or 2 Hyperloop organization companies in the world. You'd have to relocate yourselves to California if you wanted to work on Hyperloop technology. You no longer need to do that. We've gone through all of these processes, but what we're mostly interested in blockchain, and where a lot of my research has been in the last 12 and 18 months, is how can we go about remunerating people for the work that we do? So we lock a micro task into a smart contract, and now anyone, anywhere can come, do that task based on their passion or their experience, and be paid on the day for the work that they do. Just like many great inventions, we discovered this in an accident. We attracted the best minds and best engineers to work on the Hyperloop. But it was only over time that we were realizing the power of the processes that we were creating. And today we believe that we have the perfect model for the future of work. And you ain't seen nothing yet. These are some of the projects that we're working on today. So we've repeated these processes now for other projects. And some of the projects that we're working on, the R-Flight project, instead of flying cars, how about flying people? This is a GoFly project sponsored by Boeing. The smart factories of the future, again, it goes back to what the process that we went through and what we learned. Whilst engineering design virtually was a challenge, but we were able to accomplish that quite well. Physically making a prototype from concept to reality was more difficult for us. And our idea is to present global smart factories around the world that can take any engineering concept that we design virtually, either a project that we're working on ourselves or a project that's been curated by someone in the crowd. And then how do we rapidly create that from concept to reality? And our global smart factories allows us to do that. Our lead engineer, Tom Lambert, he works at NASA, and a lot of our core teams, NASA-based. Space is the final frontier, and that's where they're hugely interested in low-orbit satellites and planetary mining. My personal interest is sustainable power generation, and that's where a lot of my business has been personally since 2010. But what next? We're always open to great moonshot ideas and projects. We want to be able to curate any project from the crowd and bring it to reality. So it's not just projects that we want to work on, but projects that anybody has. We would provide the resources and support services around to bring that project to fruition. The project would be voted by the crowd, so the best ideas come to the top. So we're global, we're crowdsourced, and completely decentralized. And if you're ready to change the world and own the Hyperloop, then join the team. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for that.
Any questions?
So the real value is along the way, you've designed a process for basically managing these massive crowdsourced engineering projects. Yeah. So that's almost like an asset in itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
It's something like this has never been done before. And there is no example out there. What usually happens in crowdsourced projects is the projects don't come to fruition, or the tasks don't get completed. And we've been able to get past that edge. I mean, it's taken a long time.
To make sure that the inertia doesn't just run to a halt and then people lose interest.
And the tasks are actually completed and the project does come to fruition.
Sure.
And now that we've been able to present that on something extremely complex, even a project like
complex.
Yeah, even a project like R-Flight, which is now trying to build a individual autonomous flying suit, is a lot easier because we've done something even harder. So building an autonomous flying suit and the process for that is a lot easier than what we've done for the Hyperloop.
Is that the flying people bit?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And if I could connect my computer, I could show you some latest designs and what we've worked on. But connect with me after and I'll show you. It's quite impressive.
Any questions about RLoop or the process or this gentleman right here? Sorry, I think you wanted to ask a question in another segment I didn't get to you, so let's do you first.
Hi, may you give more details about how you implement the blockchain on one of your projects?
Yeah, so again, what we want to do, so we've gone through the whole stages of design, virtual design, task completion, but all the work that everyone's contributed globally, and we've got over 1,300 engineers today, has all been voluntary. If we want to take that up to the next step, which is the future of work, then we want to find a way to remunerate people for the work that they do. Blockchain allows you to keep a true proof of cognition, but also through smart contracting, we can repay people back for the work that they do. But because it's decentralized tech and decentralized, we want people also to own the projects that we work on. So if we're developing the Hyperloop, this significant amount of IP that we've created, we want people to own that and have a share in that. But the share that they own would be based on the contribution that they make. How are you able to track that and monitor that? And blockchain gives us a lot of it.
That is huge. I was just going to ask that about how do you manage the IP that's created along the way and the rights management. Oh my lord.
Yeah, I don't want to centralize it. I want people to own it. Everyone to own it.
How did that work with the competition with, what do you call it?
Virgin Hyperloop.
Hyperloop. Because the
Virgin
competition surely had terms or something or other about the designs.
So we've got some competitors. Where do we stand against our competitors? We've got Hyperloop 1, or Virgin Hyperloop 1 now. They've raised roughly $350 million, but they've only demonstrated, from an engineering perspective, maglev technology, which has been in existence for the last 70 years. Then we've got HTT, Hyperloop Transportation Technology. They've raised roughly $250 million, and they've demonstrated no tech in the public space. We're actually under an NDA with HTT to develop tech for them. Then you've got RLoop. What's been our cost so far? I mean, fair enough. Our input, engineering design, has been completely voluntary. So what's been our cost so far?
Time.
Take a guess. Well, what's been our actual cost? We've got $350 million as one competitor, $250 million, another competitor. And then you've got RLoop, who's designed, developed, built the most advanced Hyperloop prototype and publicly demonstrated that. It's only cost us $250,000 so far. So where would you put your money?
That's typically how open source projects go, though, isn't it? They get tons done for very little money. It's amazing.
All the IP that's created, like I said, everyone should own it. It shouldn't be centralized like it's been in the past.
I think that's the biggest piece for me, definitely. Anyone else have a question? This gentleman right here.
It's not a serious question, but since you're good in engineering, just call Elon up and help him with the Model 3.
Help him out with the Model 3.
The Model 3 Tesla,
I think
right?
the Model 3 has
It's
more
been a long time coming.
production line issues than... So we have a lot of RLoop engineers that were either... Like one of our engineers, Rohit, he's from India. He used to live in a village, graduated as a mechanical engineer, couldn't get a job, a year and a half, worked for RLoop, and now works at Tesla. And we have many engineers that we've been able to progress in their careers just because of the work and input that they've done at RLoop. But yeah, to let you know what's wrong with the Model 3, small production line issues, because he's there, we'll get first-hand information.
You know when it came time to actually build something physically, so who did the manufacturing and how did you fund that?
We did an Indiegogo campaign,
Okay,
which raised $60,000. Then we had senior sponsors like T Connectivity, Slack, who still sponsor us today. T sponsors us today. T gave us $20,000 plus the R&D center, which was opposite Facebook. Slack has been awesome. They've been our backbone, so we've not had to pay membership fees per member. Anyone can join, and so forth. So where we would normally incur costs, we've not. The cost that we have incurred has been material costs, and they've been raised through crowdfunding or self-funding. Most of it's self-funded. So today we're in zero debt. It's completely self-funded.
But did you hire like an engineering company on a contract? Or
No. Engineers. We attract
team.
smartest, most creative people in the world
Right.
who are engineers.
So it's virtual.
So so like I said, our lead engineer, Tom, is a propulsion engineer at NASA. Full time,
Right.
he still works there. In his spare time, we've done this.
Very interesting. Any other questions before we close this segment? Oh, yes, sir, over there. The only voice that can compete with mine.
Thank you for that. How are you taking this to the next level from prototype to real Hyperloops going between San Francisco and California?
So there's a few aspects here. One is infrastructure. So one's the road and one's the car, the Hyperloop part. We've developed the car here. Not necessarily do we want to concentrate on infrastructure. Infrastructure, you've got red tape through governments and various other stuff. Although we have got commercial contracts that we're currently discussing with nation states because of the progress that we've made. But engineering design is where I want to keep the focus on. Because engineering design virtually is where we're strongest. And the idea would be that we would develop tech faster, cheaper, and quicker than anybody else, any of our competitors, and we could just license the tech out. So why don't we just license the tech out to Virgin Hyperloop One? And that tech is owned by everybody.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That would be so amazing. I'm amazed.
I really enjoyed the presentation. When you asked your rhetorical question of kind of which one do you invest in, I think we all respect and admire you guys being able to do at 250K and get farther than people who spent or raised millions. But I guess it still comes down to you probably want to invest in whoever's got the best technology. So could you just give us a little bit more detail about why you think your technology is better than the competitors and how it's differentiated from theirs?
Sure. So I mentioned it earlier. We've got our competitors, HTT, who've demonstrated no tech. There's not much to discuss there. Then we've got Virgin Hyperloop One, who've demonstrated maglev, which has been tech that's been existent for the last 70 years. All they've done is put maglev in a tube. What is it that we've done? We've been able to demonstrate active levitation. So we can levitate in a standalone position on any conductive surface. And that's not been something that's been demonstrated in the past before. So then all we require after that is propulsion. Put it inside a tube, reduce air resistance, and you've got supersonic travel.
This lady has a question.
Thank you. Great presentation. But I'm missing the point. Right, so you've come to CoinFest, you've explained to us about your projects and who you've worked with and competitions you've won. But say I want to hop on board with RLoop. How do I do that? Yeah, I'm missing how I can get involved.
Sure, just go into the website, rloop.org, and join the team.
I can just join the team?
It's open to anybody. Anybody. Even if you're not an engineer, working on social media channels, working on PR marketing channels. Right. Anybody can join the team. It's open to everybody. And everybody should share what we develop. That's why we call it the power of crowdsourced engineering.
And everyone that joins on board volunteers?
At the moment, yeah. But the idea is to utilize decentralized tech to pay people for the work that they do.
Okay, now I get it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that blockchain piece is ultimately the ultimate sweat equity as well. Come back to you in a sec. My man's got another question over here. You good? Second question.
Sorry about the hogging. Following on from the lady's question just now, so your plan is to pay and have revenue share, I imagine, for ongoing benefit that's been produced by your product or the products you come up with. How do you quantify the value of each different person's input into that?
So based on what we've learned, right? So if we say that the Hyperloop project that we've done at the moment, we know how many tasks they've been. We know what their tasks are. We know it's been over 1 million hours that have been put in. I know probably over 1 million tasks. We know who's done them tasks because we have an active log of what's been worked on. And it's that same measure. How we would create the work that we do, any complex problem can be broken down to component level. That component can then be priced based on the value of the task itself. The other option is not to value the task and just create the task and let the crowd value it based on their experience. So there's a few options.
Sweet. Gentleman right here.
I'm really impressed with the
Thank
tech. It's, you know, the
From
presentation's
Manchester.
amazing.
Homemade.
Homemade?
Homemade.
Well, you're damn good at that as well then. What I'm wondering is, you mentioned about the other teams, their technology, the HTT team and the Virgin teams that you said were using the maglev tech, which is old tech. I remember being shown that in middle school, so quite a few years ago now. What I'm just wondering is about your version, your tech. Is there any resource that we could look at which would actually explain how you've achieved what you've achieved in layman's terms, not in the technical terms, because you know, I'm curious and I'd like to know how it works.
Yeah, sure, man. Loads. So we've had lots of coverage. And some great videos have been done by our supporters and sponsors. So Slack did a great video on us. Autodesk have done a great video on us. The Autodesk is probably quite a good one. Take a pic first one.
Anyone else want to ask a question after this demo?
Have we got audio here?
Yes, mate. If you want audio, we've got a little connection.
We've also completely published our FDR, Final Design Report, which is quite a technical report. It's over 1,000 pages, but it's good bedtime reading. I'll show you a quick video.
Okay, I think he's working. Give it a go.
What we see in major metropolitan areas around the world is huge congestion, and the commute times are skyrocketing.
We can do very short distance efficiently, we can do very long distance efficiently. And there is that whole thing in between that you still need to drive to, and it's not really convenient, and that's where the Hyperloop really comes in.
We have a SpaceX subreddit where SpaceX posts information for rocket launches for SpaceX technology. When SpaceX posted a thread into that subreddit announcing a Hyperloop competition, suddenly someone said, why not do a Reddit loop submission? Why not we do a team from Reddit and everyone can come together and work on this, like a community basically. So that's how we started the RLoop.
In order to successfully do our project, we needed tools that people from all around the world can have access to easily. It had to be something connected.
So Autodesk through Fusion 60 really allows for a team like us, which is gathered all around the globe, to work simultaneously on the same design, and everything is on a cloud so that anyone can simply log into it and start working on a certain part.
We have a mechanical engineer on one continent, electrical engineer on another continent. They work together, provide some specs and design that you can then build a third place and actually come to real life and test it. I think more and more, there are so many tools online, so many free tools, that those moonshots project can be tackled. Let's build something together all around the world, which like we did for RLoop. So I really believe that today we can tackle this moonshot project.
All right, let's go.
There's lots more, but a quick search and you'll be able to see.
That was on Autodesk website.
That's
the software, right?
Yeah, that's Autodesk. So we use Autodesk Fusion 360, which is a multi-collaborative engineering tool. And like Tom said, it allowed multiple engineers to work on the same design at the same time from multiple locations.
Nice one. We've got time for maybe one more question. Anybody got one? Going once, going twice. Pressure's on. Oh, there we go. Popped one out of somebody. There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Hi. I like all your technology that you've shared here that you guys have made and overcome with the challenges of being across multiple continents. But just out of curiosity, why not like build like some sort of business that works with like say larger corporate entities like Virgin, or like patent out your technology, or even like government contracts? And like have a hackathon so that you can bring in new people from around the world and offer like a cash bounty. Why do you really need the blockchain with your technology?
So the idea is to give power back to the people. Why? Like you mentioned Virgin. Virgin's the perfect example. Anyone been to London on a Virgin train from Manchester at peak time? Do you know how much it costs? So the same people that own technology today, now with Virgin sponsoring Hyperloop One, will own the transportation of tomorrow. How are we ever going to break that? Never, unless we give power back to the people. How are we going to do that? By making sure people own the technology that we develop. And that's effectively my vision, what I want to do. Ensure that the technology that we develop is owned by everybody based on their contribution, and that everybody's remunerated for the work that they do. Then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who uses our tech. We're all benefiting.
So a follow-up question: what if you actually implemented your technology for a train between Manchester and London, and once you get like that concept that's actually working, what if you just build a cryptocurrency on top of that, where people can vote with their wallets where to like invest in for a new train loop, like say London to New York, or like Madrid to Berlin, or something like that?
Yeah, so again, that would ultimately be the steps. Let's assume the first step, Manchester to London. If people own that, we could give away free travel. So you would never need to pay for travel between Manchester and London or Manchester and Glasgow again, because you own the tech, you own the infrastructure, you own the transport. Now replicate that to wherever now the crowd wants to develop the next route. The crowd still then own it. With that in mind, we literally can do anything. The crowd can then vote for any route anywhere, because infrastructure is now, and the cost for the infrastructure is the typical, what we in the past know as PPP projects. So yes, absolutely. In a sense, we are doing that, but very early stages, very, very early stages.
That's cool. You sit next to someone on the train and they're like, I'm riding for free. It's like, how? It's like, I helped design this thing.
Yeah,
right?
I own it.
Check out my tokens, man, right? All right, cool. Round of applause, please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.